Hi everybody. I today thought I would go ahead and show you guys how I set up an Indigo vat. I'm here. My kids are going to be helping me some too, and you might hear them a little bit in the background, although I've asked them to be quiet. So most of you probably know at this point, I've set up my own hand-dyed fabric company called Oak Crown Studios. I will link it below. One of the things I want to do with Oak Crown, although they're not listed yet, is sell naturally dyed fabrics, both for cross stitch and for quilting. Hand-dyed fabrics, or excuse me, naturally dyed fabrics definitely have some different characteristics than your more traditionally dyed, well, I shouldn't say traditional, this is the most traditional dyeing, but modernly, is that a word? More modern dyed fabrics using fiber reactive dyes and whatnot. But I want to stitch on them. I already am stitching on some naturally dyed fabrics, and I thought some other people might want to stitch on them as well. So my favorite time for natural dyeing is fall and spring, because you often want to do these things outside, or at least with a lot of ventilation, because you don't want to be inhaling fumes. So it's beautiful weather right now, so perfect time to set up an indigo vat. And I will be able to dye a ton of stuff using this indigo vat. It's going to be awesome. So there's lots of tutorials out there for how to do these things. I don't really mean this to be a tutorial. I'm just kind of going to talk about how this works and show how I do it. So indigo is interesting. It is still what's used to dye most of your blue jeans. Indigo comes from a plant, but as a molecule, it can't attach to the fabric when it's blue. It actually has to attach when it's green or in its reduced form. So what we have to do first is reduce the indigo in the vat. So we need to use a number of different chemicals, and you don't need to write down what I'm saying. I use the information sheet from Dharma Trading Company on how to do indigo dyeing, and there's lots of different ways to do it. But they give you the quantities to do. So anyway, all you need is a 5-gallon bucket. This is my indigo bucket. There's indigo, you might not be able to see that on the video, but there's like an indigo ring, because I've been using this bucket for indigo dyeing for years. So there's about 4 gallons of water in here. You also need a scale. You can kind of see my scale over here, the bowl on the scale. Please know, so this is just a food, like a kitchen food scale. Please do not use anything that you're actually going to use again in your kitchen for any sort of dyeing, unless it's food safe dyeing. This stuff is dedicated to my dyeing. I can't then put food in it. You could end up poisoning yourself. So this is 50 grams of sodium hydrosulfite that I already measured out. My son wants to pour it in, so I'm gonna let Logan here pour in the sodium hydrosulfite carefully. Logan, the stir stick, it's a big piece of wood that's blue on one end, is just inside the door there. Could you, excuse me, grab my stir stick for me, please? So we need 50 grams of sodium hydrosulfite. You might see it bubbling up a little bit in there. And then I also need, thank you, Logan. We have a dedicated indigo stir stick. And then we also need 100 grams of soda ash, which I used for a lot of my dyeing, so I've got a huge bin of it. And I'm just looking at my scale to make sure I get to 100 grams. Whoop, I got too much. Oh, still too much. I way over poured. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Wow. A little more, or a little less, or a little more out. Okay, that'll be good. So pour that in. And we stir this in. Now, when you're doing an indigo vat, you need to try not to introduce too much oxygen into the vat. You need it to be a very reducing environment. So some of you might be having flashbacks of like high school chemistry class here. This is just basic chemistry. Most of you probably at least learned a little bit about oxidation and reduction. Oxidation in this case, you introduce oxygen, you're going to oxidize the indigo. And that's what we don't want, because when indigo is oxidized, it's blue, and it will not stick to the fabric if it's blue. You need the indigo to be reduced in its green form in order for it to stick to the fabric. So I'm trying to stir relatively gently, not introduce a lot of bubbles. The indigo isn't in here yet. It's not the end of the world, but I'm doing my best. It's really cool. The reason I think dyeing with indigo is so fun, or one of the reasons, is because there's just something magical, and I'll try to remember to film it too, but when you take something out of the vat and it's green, and you hang it up and watch it turn from green to blue, like in front of your eyes, it's so fun to watch. And it's very, very cool. I can still feel like grit on the bottom of the vat, so I'm trying to get that off. There's still few little clumps. You just have to stir this very carefully because you don't want air in there. That'll keep your vat from working right. You do want to wear gloves while you're working with all these chemicals. And again, make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. Got one little clump, doesn't want to go away. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add the indigo. You can put it in, Logan. Let me measure it out first, though. Even when an indigo vat is exhausted or you're not getting the color that you want anymore, you can go back and add more to it. So this is pre-reduced indigo, which actually makes it easier to work with. Sometimes some types of vats are actually a lot harder to do. And I'm trying to get 20 grams of indigo crystals. And they're really pretty. I'll show them to you before my son puts them in because they're so pretty. I'm just trying to measure slowly till I get to 20. So I went too fast with the soda ash and got too much. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I don't normally film outside. Also, do not do this in your favorite clothing. I don't care how careful you are, you're going to end up with blue splashes somewhere. Just pro tip. Alright, I'm just going to show this to you. If you can see, I don't know if you can see if the light's hitting well on the camera, but they're like sparkly and blue. They're like a really deep, sparkly blue purple color. Here you go, loads. So pour them in gently. And I'm gonna tap this just to try to get everything out. And I'll need to clean that bowl out really well. So, I don't know if you can see, you do end up with this like film on the top, but you want to stir that indigo in well, but very, very gently, especially at this point. You do not want to be introducing oxygen into the vat. So I'm trying to be very gentle. You want all of that to dissolve. And today I'm actually going to be dyeing with some turmeric also. I did some dyeing with turmeric the other day, and which is very easy and fun to do. But turmeric gives you a yellow, And so if you dye your fabric yellow and then you do the green or do the blue from indigo, you can end up with a green fabric. So yeah, I think we're not hearing a lot of crunching. I think we're mostly good. Okay. Don't do this on a patio or something that you care a lot about it not turning blue, by the way. I'm gonna have blue marks on my patio, but that's okay. So you do need to make sure you have a tight fitting lid. I rinsed all this stuff really well before I started. So I can't start dyeing right away. I need to let this sit for at least 30 minutes, but honestly, this is probably gonna sit for a few hours just because I've got a day, right? I've got stuff. Whoop! My dog came out. Logan, can you get Freya back inside? I don't want her to, thank you. Okay, well, take her inside and close the wood door. Well, don't close the wood door, because, no, just take her in there, open that door more, and see if it'll close. I don't know what the problem is. All right, now put her in and see if it'll close. Anyway, I've got a day. I've got laundry to do. I've got other things to do. I want to turmeric dye some fabric before I indigo dye it. Okay, can you go get Dad then and see if he can fix it? But I'll be back in a little while and show you guys what happens when I do some indigo dyeing, okay? I hope some of you will enjoy this. All right, see you in a bit. All right, hi everybody. It's actually been a few hours. Life got in the way, so did a rainstorm. I wasn't gonna come out in the rain and do this. But it's time to put some things in the indigo vat. I'm sorry if you can hear Freya whining. She's at the screen door and she can hear me and she wants to come out, but she can't come out. So for this part, you are gonna need gloves, and you're gonna need relatively long gloves. My glove situation is a mess in the house, so I have mismatched gloves, but that have both clearly been used for indigo dyeing. These gloves really, you're not gonna be able to use them for anything else. So don't use the gloves that you want to use to wash the dishes with or whatever. So first thing I'm gonna do is open the vat, and I need to be very careful not to introduce any oxygen if I can possibly help it into the vat. I'm gonna use my little stir stick very carefully. Try to make sure I don't feel anything on the bottom, so that's good. I'm gonna pull it up. You might be able to see, I think this is called the flower. I was kind of showing you before. It looks like kind of like an oil slick sludge on the top. Again, if I remember correctly, I think that's called the flower. When you go to put something in the vat, you're gonna pull that flower aside. Now everything I have here has been washed and rinsed. It's been washed and rinsed to get any sort of chemicals that, like sizing and whatnot from manufacture process out of it. It's still wet. You want things when they go in the indigo vat to be still wet, but washed and rinsed. Freya, no. So all I'm going to do, this is actually quilting cotton. This is 4 yards of quilting cotton. I'm going to move the flower aside the best I can and very gently put this in, trying not to introduce oxygen. And there's going to be some. You can see the bubbles. I'm going to hold this under the water, which is why you need long gloves. And I'm going to try to gently separate the fabric, open it up. Now I'm not going for a perfectly uniform color here, so it's okay that it's kind of scrunched. That's just gonna actually assist me in getting a color that's not very uniform. It floats up, you can see it's green with blue bubbles on it. Again, that's because of the way that indigo works. I'm actually smushing it against the side. I got as much oxygen out as I could before I put it in. There's still some in there. Trying to get it out. It will float some. I'm also going to go ahead and dye some cross-stitch fabrics in here. I've done linen before. Oh, I got some on my arm. I got some bubbles on my arm. That's okay. Again, don't wear your favorite clothes. So I'm going to put some of these in. I've got Lugana. Gently put in. I've got Ada. And I've got natural linen. Let's see what happens with that. So I'm going to put all of these in. And I want to try to separate them under the water the best I can, meaning like unfold them, any folds that are in them, so I can try to get as even a dye as possible. It's I find it very tricky to do with gloves on, especially such thick gloves. It's hard to kind of feel what you're doing. I really want the cross-stitch fabrics to be fully submerged, so I'm putting the quilting cotton on top. All right. And I clearly got Indigo in my shorter glove, so you're better off with longer gloves, clearly. I should have taken the time to get some longer gloves, but that's all right. So put the lid on nice and tight and let it sit for a few hours. And we'll come back and see what we got. Okay, hi everybody, I'm back. You do not need to let things sit in an indigo vat for very long. A lot of people actually, and I've done it this way before too, you can actually put stuff in, move it around gently, and take it right back out. I let mine sit for a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and take it out. So I'm gonna take the lid off first. Remember, the lid needs to stay on. I've moved the angle because I think it might be easier for you guys to see stuff as it comes out. Stuff will come out, if it's gone correctly, looking green, and or even a yellow green, and then it will turn blue as it oxidizes or hits the air. I'll try to show you that the best I can. Oh, so good. There's little bits of it that are already blue of the quilting cotton that's on top because they were floating above the edge of the fabric. So I actually I have a line over here that I hang things up. This is just me fumbling about a little bit. I'm probably gonna splash it places. I think the chemical reaction as it turns blue is really cool. Okay, so let me see that. Trying to squeeze it out as I go. Again, I'm trying not to introduce any more oxygen into this than necessary, but I really want you guys to see the color change if I can. I'm getting more oxygen in the vat than I want, and I'm getting messier than I want to be, but you guys get to see. Woo! All right. Ooh! I'm getting very messy. I don't know if you can see it starting to slowly change color. This is a huge piece. Try to put over the line. Oh my goodness. If you can see, I have it dripping all over me. That's okay. Alright, I'm going to get a better angle and show you guys that in a few minutes. It's really hard when it's such a huge piece. I put all over me. This will be easier to show you the cross-stitch fabric because they're small cuts. Alright, so this is actually a natural linen, which I've never indigo dyed natural linen before. So it's already got like that natural linen color to it. oh, you might be able to see it really nice as it turns blue. So you hang these to dry, you let them sit, and then you rinse them. Or even throw them in the washing machine, which is actually what I'm gonna do with them. But you need to treat them like you would a new pair of jeans. And it can take a little while for the color change to happen. Like, you can probably see that's still quite yellow. I've got more here in the bottom. Don't want. I'll take Ada first. So I'm gonna try to, since these are smaller, it's easier. Squeeze it out underneath, lift it up. So here's Ada. I think this is a 16 count Ada probably, but this is something that was in my stash, probably left over from a kit that I subbed out. So I don't know if you can see the color change happening. It takes the time. I'm gonna hang it up. And then I think this is Lugana. I didn't do a white linen this time because I already have white linen that I'm actually stitching Nightingale on. So I know what that looks like. So this is Lugana. Oh, I'm like a mess right now. See how it's like yellowy green? And it'll slowly start to change color. I'm going to show you in a minute. The fabrics that are already been hanging up are already turning a really brilliant blue. I'm gonna slip off my gloves. Oh, messy, messy. Put the lid on nice and tight. I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, I'm taking myself out of the frame because I really want to show you this. So this was a 4-yard piece of quilting cotton that I dyed. And you will see there's going to be some variation in it. That might be where the fabric was scrunched while it was under the vat. If you want even color, you do want to spread it out as much as possible underneath, but I'm happy with some variation. If you saw that yellow-green it was when it was coming out of the vat, this is what it turns into. Now again, just like a pair of blue jeans, it's going to fade. And if you don't want it to, if you want to make sure that it's not going to bleed on your finished project, you need to wash it quite a bit to get all the loose dye off. The more you wash it, it will continue to fade, just like a pair of blue jeans, but you'll reach a point where you don't have to finish. You don't have to keep washing it. You will have washed it enough that there's not going to be dye that redeposits. And I plan on using this cotton for quilting. I'm probably going to put some on the website in case other people want some. So, yeah, I'll run these things through my washing machine. So, this is the Ada. Again, you can see some variation there and how dark it is. You can still see down on the selvage, I don't know if you can see, it's a little hard to get to focus. There's still some yellow-green down there, but most of it has turned that lovely indigo blue at this point. Again, it will lighten up. So this is on, gosh, which one is this? This is on the natural linen. This is the indigo dyed natural linen. And I love it. It's gonna, it won't be this dark once it dries and once I've washed it. And then this is the Lugana. You can see my serging had an issue. My serger came partially unthreaded at one point and caused me some problems. But it looks like the Lugana took the dye very, very well. So I also, hi Freya. I also did some turmeric dyeing with some fabric today, and I want to put some of that in the indigo bath to see what kind of greens that I get. But I'm going to save that for a different day because I don't have a lot of room to hang these up. So I'm going to get these let these dry and start washing them. And I think probably tomorrow put the turmeric in the dye bath. And then some of these, I'm gonna put them up. I'm gonna use them as my examples and put them up on the website. I've had quite a few people interested. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. That's my indigo dyeing for you guys. Hope you're getting a lot of wonderful crafting in this weekend. Bye.